Kia ora koutou, everyone. There might be a few more pings as everyone comes in, so I'll just wait for all the people to be in, and then I'll start. All right. Kia ora koutou. Welcome to our introduction to flexibility products for the wholesale electricity market in 2025. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great audience here, so really pleased with the level of interest in this initiative. My name's Jo Gowdy. I'm a principal analyst in the wholesale market policy team at the authority, and I will be facilitating today's session. It would be good to check if everyone can hear me. Someone give me a thumbs up or a sign. Awesome, thanks, Rhett. And would someone post to the chat as well, just to give us a sign that participants can post? Hello, Zoe and James. Thank you. Right, let's start today's session with the karakia, after which I'll outline what we'll be covering and how you can interact with the speakers and subject matter experts. I can't see the screen, but can you confirm the karakia is on the screen? It is. Awesome. All right. Kia taona manakitanga a te mea ngaro, ki runga ki tina o tātou, kia mahia te hua makihikihi, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori, kia tūturu, ka whakamawa kia tina, huie, take care. Right, let me first welcome our speakers. Firstly, Rob Bonneau. Give everyone a wave. He is our program lead for the Energy Competition Task Force Work Program. Next up is Sean Goldsberry. He is the chair of the co-design group that developed the product we're announcing today, and you'll hear lots more from him momentarily. We also have with us Jamie Silk, who is chair of the authority's advisory group and represents the subgroup that provided expert peer review and oversight for the product development. Our agenda today is split into a few parts. We have an hour today, and we're keen to leave as much time as possible for questions. We will introduce the flexibility product for the wholesale electricity market in 2025, but we also want to give you that context for the recommendation. So in terms of agenda, Rob will start first and give us some context for where standardised flexibility products fit in the authority's work. Then Sean is going to take us through purpose and process for the design of standardised flexibility products, problem definition and success criteria, and finally, the recommended product and recommendations to the Electricity Authority. Jamie will be providing commentary in a few places to give insights on how the EAG subgroup responded to the co-design group's work. Rob, if he's still available, will round off with what the next steps are for the authority and also the sector, and then we will take your questions. You'll be able to ask those questions at the end of the presentation via the Q&A function. Or, if you like, you can raise your hand and ask your questions directly. I'm going to be facilitating, calling out the questions and asking a speaker to respond. And if for some reason we're unable to answer that question, we will come back to you after the webinar. And just note, we are recording, and this recording will be published on our website afterwards. We do have a range of people attending today from the sector and the media, which is fantastic. But just remember, you are being recorded, and it'll be up there for posterity. Over to you, Rob, to get us started.
Kia ora tātou. I'm Rob Beno. As Joe said, I'm the program lead for the Energy Competition Task Force work, and was also leading the Authority's Risk Management Review program, which has a close connection to that. I'm really pleased to be here talking to you today, and while my job is to set the scene in terms of how this work fits in, the first thing I really wanted to say was congratulations and thank you to the co-design group and also to the advisory group subgroup that was involved in peer reviewing. It's really impressive what they've done in a short period of time in relation to flexibility products that we think are really, really important to the industry. So we acknowledge that you are working fast, and we have been hopeful and optimistic throughout the process, but congratulations to you for landing this. That's a really good piece of work. As I think most of you will know, the standardised flexibility product fits in as one of the initiatives being progressed by the Energy Competition Task Force. The task force is made up of the Electricity Authority and the Commerce Commission, and has MB sitting on it as an observer, and was really seeking, in the context of the very high prices in August, to look at whether there were measures that should be initiated or progressed at greater speed to ensure that the market was performing as well as it possibly could, both in terms of promoting competition in the retail and generation pieces, and also, in terms of providing options to consumers. So this standardised flexibility product sits in the promoting competition part of that, and what we call package one, and it's really at the heart of package one in terms of us acknowledging that access to hedging contracts, access to firming is incredibly important, particularly as the market becomes more and more penetrated by intermittent generation. And it's important to various groups across the sector, important to retailers, important to new generators, important to large industrials as they try to make sure they have adequate spot market price cover, and important to those investing in flexibility as well, in terms of making sure that there is appropriate price discovery, which helps them understand the value of the various different options for flexibility. So we see this as a critical piece, and I'm really pleased that it's the first thing from the task force that has been publicly released, knowing that we're then coming up to a program of significant level of releases early next year. The other thing that's really important, I think, as context is, the co-design group was given pretty free rein in terms of working out what they considered was the best flexibility product to bring into the market, given the conditions at this time. And the fact that they've settled on a super peak product, I think, is important, and it kind of validates other pieces of work that, of course, they were well aware of, but did not need to follow. That's both the MDAG work from their price discovery report that was released in December 2023, where they talked about the importance of flexibility products, of being able to really improve that price discovery for flexible supply. I think they described it as the secret sauce to enable the wholesale market to function most effectively. It also fits with our preliminary findings that were published in the Risk Management Review in November, which we are expecting submissions in on this week. So acknowledge that we still have submissions to receive, but the authorities' pretty clear perspective was that we did have concerns about the availability and pricing of super peak hedge contracts, and also acknowledging the need to promote more investment in flexibility. And so this product goes a long way towards starting that process of providing better access to those products, providing more confidence to the sector that those products are available and that they're competitively priced, addressing those concerns about can we get those hedges to grow our business or not, and addressing some of the concerns that were identified in the risk management review in relation to market power. So I'll hold fire there. I am going to talk to you again at the end of this webinar about next steps, but very happy to take any questions now or to take questions at the end.
Great, thanks for that, Rob. Well, I'd like to hand over to Sean now, but we'll certainly round back to you, Rob, at the end with any questions. Sean, let's allow your camera and mic so you can talk to us. Where's he gone? Please hold while we sort out technology. All right, Sean, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great.
We can't see you, but we can definitely hear you.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Cool. Turned on my camera. Very good. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Joe. So for those who don't know me, I'm Sean Goldsberry. I'm currently the CEO of Brave Trace, who works in the renewable energy certification space. I've got a long history in the wholesale markets, working for Genesis, Trust Power, doing some consulting work for tier 2 retailers, independent power producers, and a range of people across the industry. So very excited to have the honour to chair the group and to be able to present the findings of the group on behalf of the group today. So just a couple of personal comments before I start representing the views of the group. So I just wanted to thank you to all of the members of the group who you'll see on screen there. I think with these sorts of work streams, it's important that we get people with a good range of experience and knowledge across different subsets of the industry, and that those people can come to a group like this and share their knowledge and experience. But at the same time, these people aren't there to represent their companies, they're representing the industry. And I think everyone on the group did a really good job of sharing their particular knowledge and experience, but also stepping back and trying to think about the big picture and the views of the industry, which was great. I think one of the things I'm really proud of is that we managed to get to unanimous agreement on all of the recommendations that we'll share with you. The discussions were not unanimous very often during the process, but everyone, we had some really good debate and discussions, and managed to round on agreement for good reasons on things. So I want to thank everyone on the group for the time and commitment. The group also ended up doing a lot more meetings and work than was initially laid out, just with the tight timeframes. There's a few extra meetings thrown in there, so thank you all for your commitment. The second personal comment, I just want to thank the Electricity Authority staff for their support and help during this process. They all led by Joe, but supported by a lot of other people. They did a great job of facilitating the process, helping us out, providing the right information, but all of the discussions and deliberations and decisions were ultimately led by the group. And I think this kind of industry-led approach is great. And I thought the authority staff did an excellent job of supporting us and enable to be the voice of the industry during this process. So having said all of that, we'll start running through the process. So in terms of the scope that we were set, this is the scope that we were given. In addition to the scope, we obviously had reasonably tight timeframes. So the goal at the start was to have a recommendation ready before Christmas for a new standardised product to start trading in January 2025. That could be effective and used for the upcoming winter, as well as in future years. So a lot of our early discussions were really on understanding the scope of what we're trying to achieve, the timeframes, and that we did spend a lot of time setting the stuff up. So I think it helped lead to successful outcomes. So one of the things we talked about was the problem definition. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities for improvement in the industry, and we just had to really focus on what we were talking about. So we talked about a lot of the potential problems, tried to categorize them and group them, and then prioritized them as you see in front of you for the following reasons. In the scope of the product, what we were aiming for is we wanted a product that was quite generalized, that could be of some use to a wide number of participants in different types of companies. One of the challenges we talked about was if you provide a product that is a perfect hedge for one sort of technology or business, that it's going to be less useful to others. So by its nature, this product needs to be fairly general, be of some use to others, but no one should ever have an expectation of being able to get a perfect hedge. So it's about reducing the risk, sharing the risk with the parties who can managing it, not eliminating the risk. And so when we looked at some of these issues, such as dry year firming is a good example, there's only a few buyers of those types of products and only a few sellers, and those contracts are quite bespoke and customized, and we felt best left to those parties. And we landed on this price discovery for peak products and potentially the demand side flexibility. We felt unlocking those in the upcoming winter was going to be important. So in terms of the success criteria, so obviously we want something that's liquid, that's going to trade, that can give good price discovery. So one issue we did talk about quite a bit was, given the timeframes in terms of the winter we're heading into, the reality is we have the existing technology that we have on both the supply and demand side. So some of the products we considered would be useful for investment decisions and encouraging new technologies into the market. And so that expressly was not the purpose of our group because of those timeframes. However, if there was some price discovery, it might assist some new technologies in the future. That's an additional benefit, but encouraging new technologies wasn't our core focus or purpose, because we're not going to get new generation built by next winter that isn't already on the market. So having sorted out the problem definition and the success criteria we were looking at, we then moved to start looking at some of the products.
Thanks, Sean. I think I would say as a reflection, everyone found that part hard work. They wanted to get into the exciting part of designing products, but this really laid a foundation for making sure you were focusing on the right things. Now I'll invite to the screen Jamie Silk, Chair of the Electricity Authority Advisory Group, to take us through how the subgroup thought about this product and process.
Kia ora tātou, thanks, Joe. So yeah, first I'd like to also acknowledge the pace that Sean and the co-design group had worked at, and also their focus on establishing that wider landscape before landing what is a really targeted outcome. Just for a tiny bit of background on the subgroup, so it's a subgroup EAG was formed with 7 participants bringing an independent second opinion to the EA work. I've got to acknowledge the working group did all the heavy lifting on this. So we had the pretty easy job of a light touch, iterative and discussion based engagement over 3 meetings with the authority staff. And that process is a really good example of how the authority is working to engage early and often and give chance for multiple stakeholder inputs. So yeah, so I'd like to thank obviously both Sean and co-design group, the EAG subgroup and the authority that facilitated that. What was clear from the process we went through and the discussions and feedback we got from the authority is that we are really closely aligned through those conversations with the problem definition that Sean just outlined, the prioritisation of the work and the success criteria that informs the decisions that he'll explain a little bit later. Rather than repeat, I guess, what Sean and Joe have just said, it's probably useful to share some of the key insights from our discussions that underpinned this alignment. For us, a lot of the debate really focused on the fact there are a set of trade-offs out there. So we're obviously all familiar with the long-term drivers from the MDAG report and the really useful context that provided versus the near-term focus of the competition task force that Sean's just outlined. We also discussed at some length the trade-off between getting really good problem discovery on what's constraining the sellers and the different customer segments out there, and targeting solutions, I guess, to those particular needs versus, of course, the benefits of getting perhaps an imperfect hedge, but with much wider appeal that gets liquidity into the market. And there are other trade-offs out there, such as the trade-off, obviously, between the simplicity and accessibility of OTCs versus the price visibility and some of the constraints and costs around interacting with the ASX. What going through those trade-offs meant for the group was obviously some energetic debate, same as Sean's group experience, but ultimately it brought real clarity as to what was important for the decisions they were making today, that we needed a product solution that concentrates liquidity quickly, but also works within some pragmatic trading arrangements, which fits really well with the recommendations we're going to hear in a minute. The final bit that's worth reinforcing out of the discussions is that they really came back and reinforced the message that this is the first step of a much wider work program, as we heard from Rob earlier on. But I'll hand back to Sean to take us through the next step.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. I just figured that out, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you very much for that, Jamie. I actually went and visited a session with the EAAG during the process, and there's good communication between the groups, so that was great. So in terms of once we'd spent that time getting clear on the scope, the problem, definition of success criteria, we built a long list of potential products that we looked at. Now, the base for this list was the MDAG list and the paper that started this group and that we were working off. We also gave all members on the group an opportunity to put forward any products that they could dream up that might be of some use. And we also had a third group of products, which we call volunteer products, which were, there are a number of people who reached out to the authority directly or to myself or other members of the group, sharing product ideas they thought might be useful. And we decided to build all of those into our process. So we wanted to cast a wide net and look at everything that might be useful and have some good discussions about the use of various products to meet our objectives. Now, one of the, just this morning, I've sent the full recommendation letter on behalf of the group to Sarah Gillies. So in that you'll see a number of recommendations for other products that the group feels may have use. So what we, in discussing all the products you see on screen, we recognise that there were some products in there that we think are really useful to the industry and would be useful to be developed, but weren't the appropriate products for us to develop, given our objectives and the timeframes and the complexity of some of these. So you will see in the recommendation a few products highlighted that the group likes and would like to see in the industry, but this wasn't the right time or process or group to deal to those issues. So as we excluded products for various reasons, we moved to the shortlist, which went down to a daily peak product and a super peak. Now, under these broad headings, we looked at every range and combination of these products that we could think of. So we looked at different trading periods, start and end dates. We looked at, is it business day, non-business day, which nodes, are the shapes the same for, the effective trading period's the same for different nodes, different quarters. We looked at, under the super peak, we looked at a product that doesn't necessarily have fixed trading periods, so it would settle on the 6 or 8 or 10 highest trading periods of the day. So once we discussed the product groups on the previous slide and got down to these two here, we're then able to have some really good discussions around all of the variations of these and work out what we might do and how those might work. And the eventual product we settled on was the super peak product. So the standardised spec that you see on screen there is one that group settled on. We did consider morning only or evening only or trading them both separately. And we, as I said, we considered a whole range of different approaches. The recommendation is on a combination of quarterly contracts and monthly contracts. So monthly contracts towards the front end of the product to provide a bit of nuance, and quarterly products heading out up to 36 months or 3 years from where we are. So there's some hedging ability for both buyers and sellers able to take place in the longer term, but they can provide more nuance and more shaping closer to the time. We did consider and discuss recommending multiple products, and in the end, the group did see value in that daily peak product, but felt that there's already some ability to trade that product, given there is an exchange traded future on the ASX that broadly meets that scope. And we felt that the super peak was filling a need that wasn't currently in the market. The authority also shared some of the monitoring they've been doing around over-the-counter products trading, and which I believe has now been released, and that clearly showed that the super peak is the most common requested product and trade over the counter, but there's a huge array of different versions and different trading periods and things. So there was evidence that we saw that this is a product that's being traded regularly, but trying to standardise it a little bit more, give it a bit more transparency and price discovery was going to be a good thing. And of course, if any party wants a contract that doesn't quite meet, if the standardised product doesn't quite meet their specifications, of course, people are welcome to approach any party over the counter and ask for whatever product they would like and would suit them. Yeah, I'll pass back to Jamie for his thoughts on where we landed and why.
Well, thanks, Sean. Yeah, so again, acknowledging we had the luxury of not having to do the hard work to prioritise and specify the product terms that the co-design group went through. But in the process, we very much came up with the same long list of options that will be really valuable over time as the market evolves, and the same key needs driving the shortlist. And as Sean says, the recognition for the case for the super peak products is really strong, noting that exchange traded product gap. It's obviously wide relevant to a range of potential buyers and sellers today, and how you're concentrating all that liquidity in one product and can be really valuable to the immediate objectives. Sean mentioned a couple of minutes ago that we did have the opportunity, and a great opportunity it was to get a briefing from him through the process, and that was really valuable because it helped really get behind the skin of some of these discussions, enable us to take some of the more vibrant and diverse views that we had in our group, and get the insights of how the co-design group had tackled those and the depth they'd taken it to, and also to give a robust opportunity to test some of the thinking about the alternatives such as caps and collars and the other items that Sean had mentioned, and really wrapped up from that discussion with Sean presenting a really clear and compelling case that dovetailed well with our discussions. My final comment is that those discussions really reiterate how we loop back frequently to this really being the first step of a number of steps of product and platform evolution that the market and players can take forward, and the wide linkages with the EA program that we heard from Rob at the start. And finally, also how important to the success of these measures will be the transparent monitoring that the EA will be working on and taking forward in parallel to the market participants' work. So I'll hand back to Joe to coordinate the rest of the conversation.
Actually, this one's still Sean, because this was a topic of great vigour.
Yeah, so as Rob mentioned at the start, we did have a scope, but there was a bit of ability there to broaden the scope if we saw fit. And we did spend a lot of time as a group discussing the trading arrangements, right? Because to meet the objectives that were laid out and get a product that trades and is liquid and is useful to people, you have to think around how that's going to be traded. So in our recommendations, we discussed various trading arrangements. So I'd just like to be really clear on this, that ultimately it's up to the authority to implement the product that we've recommended and to agree the trading arrangements with a broker that can provide a service and with any parties that might participate. So while this is recommendations and guidance, ultimately We have to get something that's workable for the industry, and there's far too much detail to go into here. What the group did recommend is we considered an over-the-counter was better than exchange traded. The amount of time it takes to list and get products on exchange traded, as well as access issues for some parties for exchange traded products, meant that we felt over the counter was going to be more widely traded. Our vision is there is some type of twice a month auction type event set up so as not to coincide with FTRs, and we felt that concentrating the trading into 2 days a month is going to increase the liquidity at those times. So those who've been around the industry a while may remember a few years ago there was an attempt to get a day ahead peak product trading, and the way that worked is parties would submit bids and offers to the broker, which were blind and anonymised. The broker would then have a look at matching if there were any bids and offers that match, and a contract would be entered into, and then they would send out to that group the live bids and offers, and they had a period of time to come back and fill those orders. And so whether it starts, so that was an email-based system. There's some brokers have some platforms that might be useful. Again, the detail of that is up to the authority and those brokers and those parties to work out. We also acknowledge that going over the counter, you need to have trading documentation in place. You need to think about credit risk. So there's a bunch of issues there which we've highlighted, and again will. So to move this along, we've actually the authority has prepared a request for information that the group has helped draft and sent and approve. And Joe's going to send it off shortly to brokers who offer New Zealand electricity or energy services to just work out exactly how the trading arrangements are going to work. Can we go to the next one, Joe? Yeah, so just to share some more detail about the recommendations of the group. So there's some recommendations around monitoring of the product. So the authority being clear, this will be a volunteer traded product at the start, and it will be monitored. And the group has had some thoughts on what that should look like and how that should work. So for example, that the group considered that liquidity of the product is best measured by volumes traded, but also volumes available to trade. So as long as there's bids and or offers in the market on a regular basis and there's volume available, that is one metric of success, and also looking at the traded volumes too. The group considered that the period from month 6 through to month 24 were likely to be the highest liquidity of the product. Obviously heading into the winter we're about to head into, most players should have a good portion, if not all, of their hedging done and already set up. So definitely as you get closer to the term, there may be balancing trades as generation capability changes, customer changes. There's always a few bits and pieces, but primarily this is not envisioned as a short-term product traded within a month. It's more something that can be used to set business up in the longer term. One of the products that we talked about group was renewable firming products, which the group definitely sees a big need for in the market. But because of the specificity of technologies this is being aimed at, because of the long-term nature and our timeframes, this didn't really fit. But there's a recommendation there that we see great value in these products, and it's a big need, should be filled. We had the same conversation around demand response too. And demand response, standardised demand response, is something that the group felt could benefit the industry. As we talked through that concept, I certainly wasn't aware, but thankfully we had experts on the group that depending how that's set up, you potentially might need a change to the code to allow multiple trading arrangements, so that industrials, the benefit of the demand response doesn't just get shared with their retailer. It can be available to multiple parties and create some competition and better price discovery. So of course, if you talk changing the code, when we were talking about this in October, there was no chance it was changed by December for a January launch. So that's another product or potential group of products that we see value in. We're calling for the authority to develop and publish a roadmap. So we had a lot of discussions about the Venn diagram, as we call it, of all the various authority groups of which we're one and how they all interact. But also there's a lot of product development, potential product development work out there. And so just to understand how and where we all fit into that bigger picture. We think it'd be great for for the authority to provide that bigger picture for us all. And as part of that, we were fortunate to have James Tipping on the group with us, who is actually part of the original MDAG that made the recommendation. And there were definitely times where James's experience from MDAG, his knowledge of the thinking and the rationale that went into those recommendations was really beneficial to our group. We've also made a recommendation that as future work streams emerge, we think it's good to get new people on there and have some fresh ideas, but having one or two members that have been on our group, depending on what the work stream is, could provide some valuable continuity for future groups, the same way that James provided for us. So those recommendations, along with the details of the product specification, you will see in the full letter, which will be released at some stage, and also, will be, was that to me, Joe, or someone else? And obviously the minutes of the group and some of the discussions we had behind the scenes about various products and options will be released as well. Just a quick note on that. One of the discussions, a detailed discussion the group had, was on the use of options and caps and various option-related products. The group felt there was some challenges with that. One of the challenges being options or caps can be a great risk management tool for a buyer who pays a low premium to manage their tail risk. The challenge is that the seller uses up capacity and or energy and only gets a premium, so they're not protected in a downside scenario where there's lots of water and or gas available in the market and prices fall. Another challenge is, in my experience and some of the others on the group, there are a lot of companies that aren't authorised to trade options in New Zealand. They don't have board approval, and also the complexity of options and how they work and the different payoff charts with flying condors and flying eagles and various things. It's a really complex technical product, and we felt that going for simple, clear, easy to understand with the timeframes was going to be good for us. So so that summarises the full recommendations.
Thanks, Sean. I think sorry about I was shaking my head at Lisa, not yourselves. I think we're handing over to Rob now. But I think on behalf of authority staff, it really has been a pleasure working with yourself as chair and members of the co-design group. You really picked up the challenge we laid down, and we appreciate it. Hand over to Rob for next steps.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief, make sure that we have time for questions. As Sean said, it's for the authority to implement this now. The group has done its job, and we need to take forward that challenge, and we are very conscious of exactly what he was saying, the need to practically make sure this happens versus having a beautifully designed widget on the shelf that no one really uses.
Have we lost Rob? All right. I think we've lost Rob. So, oh, here he is. He's back again. We might need. Yay! Awesome. Thank you.
I have no idea what happened there. My computer just completely melted down and turned off. So you've now got me on mobile. Can you hear me well enough? Brilliant. Thank you. Yay for multiple forms of technology. Sorry, so where I was going to was just acknowledging the importance of making this practically work. So part of that is the authority now starting to engage more directly with participants on this, as was up on the slides. We will be engaging with the sellers, talking to them about exactly what this means, what our expectations are, and we are open to engaging with all parties. That's not any kind of a seller-only focus, just an acknowledgement that they're the ones who actually need to get this trade going, and we need to have that confidence. Another really important part of this is the dashboard that we will be producing to measure trade and flexibility, which fits with MDAG's recommendation about developing a competition dashboard. We know that everyone will be highly interested in that, and that there is some real heat on this product in terms of we all want it to perform, we all want it to get outcomes, and we want to be aware of that performance as it goes over time. So the authority will be doing both broader reviews of the product periodically, but we'll be monitoring it from day one. We'll be looking very closely. I can assure you that when Joe was presented to our board on Monday about this product, the boards, they had a lot of questions. It was a really good discussion. They were particularly interested in how will we know if it's succeeding, if it's not succeeding, if it's not trading the way we want to, if the offers or the actual contracts are not at the level we'd expect, how we'll be able to understand why, when will be the point at which we say, hey, this looks like it's going really well, we still keep looking at it, but that feels like it's in a good direction, versus we need to think about other steps if something's not working the way we would expect it to. So we will be taking a very, very close interest in this. As I said at the beginning, this is just the start of the broader task force package, but also, as Sean's rightly said, this is just the start of potential for the industry to co-design things that work best for it, and the authority to play the best role it can, but when necessary, get out of the way if the industry can be doing the right things itself with just a bit of facilitation from the authority. So we are open to whatever way of working will achieve the best outcomes. Final plug for the task force work. We expect to have the first task force paper landing in January. That's the paper in relation to Initiative 1A, which is about PPA firming, which really is to some extent a spin-off from the standardised flexibility product, essentially asking the question of, is a specific firming product for PPAs an important addition to better encourage new generation competition, as opposed to the standardised flexibility product will already do that job. So we'll look forward to your engagement on that, and to your engagement with all the various different workstream initiatives being released in February and beyond. But the right way to finish this, as I started it, was to once again say thank you to the group. I'm unapologetic about you operating under tight timeframes. I understand the pressure that creates, but pressure creates good things. And I think the group is, what they have produced is absolute evidence of that. If they took the challenge, they rose to it, and they've got a really good outcome before Christmas as promised. So well done to all of you. We're genuinely grateful, and we acknowledge the effort that you put into it.
I might
Awesome.
pick
Thank
up.
you, Rob.
We lost the end of you there, Rob.
Sorry.
But
I was in my well
I
done
think
to everyone and congratulations part 2, which is the most important.
we lost the heartfelt congratulations part. Do you want to?
Yeah, look, like I was saying, just particularly given the timeframes were tight, which I actually think was the right thing to do. Thank you to everyone for the effort, and particularly for the extra meetings, the above and beyond effort. We know, people may have choices about where they put their marginal time, and we really appreciate that it was put into this. And from where I sit, that was effort well spent.
Thanks, Rob. Well, with that, we are moving on to the questions part. We've got just under 15 minutes. You can use the Q&A function in Teams, and I'm really pleased to see that there are red dots there, so we'll have a look there shortly. Or you can also raise your hand, and I think someone's already got in there with that. So what I'll do is I'll go through the questions first. Nadira, I can see that you're there with your hand up, and I will come back. So let's have a look. All right, from the bottom. Neil Warbrand, agree with Rob that transparent price discovery is both a huge win, and that the proposed product is likely to significantly help this, and in turn help the development of new products. So I'm very interested in the detail of the proposed dashboard. Any views on what sort of information is likely to be available in the dashboard? So I think I'll take that one. We are definitely looking at it with the MDAG lens. If you go to the MDAG's report, they outline some views about including availability and pricing of standardised flexibility products, availability and pricing of non-standardised flexibility products. And that will be the mainstay of what we're seeking to set up. More news will come in February, which is when we plan to launch that dashboard. Another one from Neil, and a supplementary question on the dashboard. Will this be available on Emmy? So I mentioned this at the Energy Trader Forum that we are looking at a different technological platform, and so we expect that will go live around February, and the dashboard will be one of the first products to go on that. So in short, no, because there will be a new Emmy. I'm not sure what the branding is yet, but broadly, it'll be there, but it'll be different. Stu, Rob, you'd previously mentioned that the task force was going to be preparing backstop measures in case flexibility products weren't being traded. Today you mentioned monitoring and discussion about the criteria, but perhaps you could talk to metrics and where on the ruler the success criteria, traded volume spreads, etc. If not, is there a plan for these to be published?
Thanks, Stu. It's a really good question. So we have previously talked about preparing backstop measures in case the voluntary trading of the flexibility product doesn't achieve the outcomes that we're hoping it would. It's kind of essentially hope for the best, plan for the worst kind of approach to that. I don't want to particularly talk about them today, and that I don't want to undermine the good work that the group has done, that we are confident in, but there is no question from the task force's perspective, we want these standardised flexibility products to be in the market, and if need be, we will do what we need to do from a regulatory perspective to have that happen. But it's really important that the incentives are set up in the way that give the work of the co-design group and the voluntary trading work the best chance to succeed, because all other things being equal, something that's developed and used by all the participants in the market is more likely to be successful than something the regulators come up with, even if they have a really, really good engagement process. We all understand the value of market-based solutions. Look, in terms of metrics and success criteria and things like that, I'm not in a position today and don't want to today to start talking about what that might look like. I think over time we will have more of a discussion there, particularly as the authority gets to a point of talking about how it believes this product is doing, how the performance is working. I don't think it's the right place to start, though, to say here is number X to aim at, and that's the sole kind of binary judge of success. What we're actually looking for is understanding what the sellers can offer and understanding whether that meets buyer needs. And buyer needs will inevitably be generated from buyers, and in some months they'll be different, and they will be what they will be. So our sense is much more, as Sean was saying, of, you know, is what is being traded what we'd expect? Are there offers out there that people could take? So there's open interest sitting in the market. If buyers aren't trading these products, why not? What's causing those things? So there's a bit of a discovery process to go, I think, before you simply say, here is a number, is it hitting this number or not? And that's not to say ultimately you don't need metrics and you don't need some level of objectivity to measure this against to make decisions as to whether it's working or not. But I'd rather let that discovery process pan out, albeit just with the development of this product, the authority's expectations of looking at performance, understanding what's working, that will happen quickly. The board wants to hear back first time in March about how this is going. If there's some reason to hear back before that, they will absolutely, and they will keep looking, and they will keep looking. As I said, they're very, very interested.
Thanks, Rob. I'd really like to make sure we keep moving, but that was fairly comprehensive. There is a high degree of interest, and we will continue to make as much information as we can public. The next one is from AC Haast. Sorry, I can't remember who exactly that is. But can sorry?
Aaron Cook.
Aaron asks, can Sean please speak to the reasons why an OTC product was preferred to pursuing an exchange listed product?
Sure, absolutely. Happy Wednesday, Aaron. The primary reason was just the timeframes for getting a product exchange listed. So we understand recently products can, if the ASX was the chosen exchange, can take 18 months to list, which isn't great for the timeframes we have. Also, whether they would even list a product depends on the revenue they're going to make from it, and this is a product with a lot less volume than some of the quarterly and monthly contracts. And there's also issues of access for some parties, provision of margin, various things where an exchange product potentially limits buyers and sellers in a way that would decrease liquidity of the product. So what we've put in the recommendations, though, is that it needs to be OTC to meet the timeframes that we've got, but over time that question should be revisited as to exactly what the OTC trading arrangements are and whether a move to exchange trade in the future is the right option. So the group, under the current conditions, the group didn't have a view exchange trade was the right option. As I said, wasn't even a realistic possibility. But we've put in the recommendations that possibility should be considered. And if there's a point in time at which that's deemed to be beneficial and can happen in a way that's positive for the product industry, then that should happen at that stage.
All right. Thanks, Sean. I think I'll move on to the next one. And for those who are newer to the industry, can you give us guidance on where we can find information to understand the fundamentals and underlying mechanisms of the Super Peak product? That's quite a detailed question. So if I can, we'll come back to you after the webinar on that, Simon. Leah and Shane, I think, asking kind of the same question in two different ways. All these new products likely to be settled through the clearing manager? And for Shane, will the Super Peak product be available to be converted into a hedge settlement agreement and given up to NZX for clearing? So thanks for that question. It is something we've given a lot of thought to, and it was suggested by the members of, I think it came up originally in the subgroup, but also in the co-design, and it is something that that we're looking at, and subject to authority decisions and of course your consultation. So it's in the works, in short, for consideration. Angus Young, what nodes will this product likely be offered at?
Yeah, it's going to be offered at Benmore and Otahu, and the same specification for both nodes.
There we go. Just 3 minutes to go. Nadira, are you still on the call? If so, put your hand up again, because if you have a question, I'd love to answer it. Let's scroll down. No, she's dropped off. All right. Well, we've got 3 minutes. Any more questions? I know you're passionate people out there. One more? All right. I need to save time for my karakia. Will there be a standard contract tick size from Greg size? Yes, there will. It's 0.1 megawatts. Great question. Sorry, Sean, should have thrown that to you.
It's fine.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that's a wrap. I'll just take you through the closing karakia, but I'd really like to thank you all for coming. Happy Wednesday. I hope you have a safe holidays, and we'll see you in the new year once we start to trade this. But we'll just do a karakia first. Kia whakaira te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, Kia tūriki whakataha ai. Kia tūriki whakataha ai. Haumea, huia, take care. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.